Welcome to Enlightened, the enlightened journey of life. I am your host, Jen Hamilton, and it is an honor to have you here. I am a conscious life coach and women's empowerment mentor, and I activate a potent level of self and soul inquiry with my clients, which initiates deep and lasting transformation in all areas of their lives. I am here for the full human experience, authentically and audaciously sharing my magic with the world. On this podcast, we're all about mastering life on the way to enlightenment. And as we are here having a human experience, we might as well embrace it all. We play in the space of what is real and tangible, just as much as we play in the space of esoteric and metaphysical. You'll be ignited by deep conversation, whether through my own personal musings, interviews with incredible thought leaders around the world, and everyday divine humans sharing their soulful stories. Thank you for being on this journey. Let's dive in. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Enlightened Podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and today's episode is a little out there, a little expansive, and full of incredible information. I'm joined by Tom Paladino, who is the founder of Scalar Energy Technology. This is not something I had heard of myself before connecting with Tom. And prior to us recording our conversation, I was able to experience this healing technology to get a feel for it so I could interview Tom with a bit more of an understanding about this treatment device. So, to give you a bit of a background before we dive into the conversation, Scalar Energy is the fundamental life force found everywhere in the world, space, and universe. It originates from the sun and stars. Chi, prana, om, mana, life force, pyramid energy, and 0 point energy are synonymous terms for scalar energy. Tom began research with scalar energy during his undergraduate years. Inspired by various scientists, especially Nikola Tesla, who is a genius inventing alternating current, he was curious to learn more about the existence of an energy that was not of the electromagnetic spectrum. Tom pursued a course of independent study in order to better understand and subsequently harness scalar energy, as this emerging science is not taught at the university level. One of Tom's scientific predecessors was Dr. T. Galen Hieronymus, one of the few scalar energy researchers in the United States in the last century. He read Galen's notes and used his scalar energy instruments after his death. Some of Galen's inventions, according to a 1977 magazine article, were quasi-electronic instruments that could analyze the component elements of an ore sample with spectroscopic, chemical, or other orthodox methods, and most surprisingly of all, influence, even kill living organisms even from vast distances with no scientifically understandable mechanism at the other end. Tom theorized that all energy in the universe initiates as scalar energy, and that the sun of our solar system and the stars of the universe are the points of origin or the storehouses for scalar energy. He further theorized that scalar energy is instructive energy, as the entire universe is instructed by this divine essence. Subsequently, all spiritual, cognitive, emotional, and physical action in the universe is initiated and maintained by scalar energy instruction. Scalar energy provides order in the universe. Based on these theories and the work of scientists who came before him, Tom was able to develop scalar energy instruments capable of harnessing and transmitting instructive energy to heal human subjects by way of their photograph. You can think of this as similar to a radio broadcast with his instrument as the broadcaster and your quantum body as the receiver. The difference is that the energy transmitted is not electromagnetic and therefore immeasurable by traditional science. His instruments provide a guaranteed, fast, harmless, and painless treatment process that has successfully healed patients with quantum illnesses such as HIV viral disease, Ebola, herpes, hepatitis, Lyme disease, tuberculosis, malaria, etc. Over 400,000 pathogens are identified and subsequently disassembled by way of the unique Scalar Energy protocol. These Scalar light instruments administer the Scalar Energy reverse phase angle harmonic of a pathogen, therefore causing the agent of infection to disassemble or fall apart. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protozoan can be disassembled, representing a cure or prevention for thousands of diseases. Once the causative agent of a pathogen disease has been eliminated, the symptoms associated with that infection decrease or disappear altogether. I know it sounds absolutely mind blowing, and that was just the introduction. So keep an open mind because I know you're absolutely going to love this interview. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to the Enlighten podcast, Tom. How are you?
Well, thank you for the invitation.
I am so excited to have you here and dive into all things quantum and healing and non-physical and all of the magic that you bring to the world, because it's going to be a very interesting conversation that we get to have today. Now, you're a scalar energy researcher and you're into quantum medicine and all of these incredible things. Tom, tell us about the work that you do, the work that you don't do, and what is it that you're bringing forward into the world?
Thank you, Jen. I am a researcher first and foremost, and I work with an energy, scalar energy, what some people call 0-point energy. It's not electricity. And why is that unique? Well, I'm not working with electricity and magnetism. It's a different spectrum of energy, scalar energy. And I've developed scalar energy instruments that can control that spectrum of energy, that can control that dimension. So we're going to speak about a new science, an emerging science. And it's quite fascinating because we can work with people at a distance through their photograph. A photograph captures a person's essence, or a photograph captures a person's signature. If I hold up my photograph is my bilocated version. I could work with Jen or anybody in the world by way of their photograph and make a quantum connection through the photograph, through the energy field, through the force field. So that's what we're going to speak about. It's quite interesting, so bear with us.
For anyone out there that's going, what on earth is quantum? Can you tell us a bit about what quantum is, what the quantum field is, quantum science?
Yes. I think a general explanation, and again, it's a new science, so we have to develop terms for this new science. Quantum energy really refers to something outside of the electromagnetic spectrum. And many people think that's consciousness. And I would concur with that quantum energy is intelligence, or the consciousness of the universe. So there's no electrons or protons involved. It's non-physical. So when we speak of the field or consciousness or the intelligence or the logos of the universe, this is really the center point of all activity. It's the instructions, it's the intelligence of the universe, the quantum field. So important. And once we realize what this new science can do, it will take the world by storm.
Yeah, it really will. Tell us a little bit about this, this model that you have developed. What is it and how does it work?
The model, the instruments are, if you will, copied more or less from the work of Nikola Tesla and another great inventor, Galen Hieronymus. I'm not the originator. And these two great luminaries, these two scientists who, if you will, perfected the scalar energy research to the point of instrumentation. What does that mean? In a nutshell, we're not controlling electricity. We're controlling consciousness. We're controlling the quantum field, the intelligence of the universe. Now, why is that important? Well, if you can control quantum energy, intelligence, then you can dictate nature. A scalar energy instrument allows you to instruct, to dictate nature. It's very profound, but I'll stand by that comment. I can control, I have some type of mandate control over nature.
Is it a force that can then obviously be used against someone's will?
It could be, yes. And here's an example. The human mind is a quantum mind. Our thoughts are quantum energy or scalar energy, and we can either think for the positive or for the negative. So, throughout the day, you want to obviously realign yourself if you're negative or if you're gossiping or if you're saying something against somebody. Have a positive day, have goals, have a purpose. So, yes, this is the quantum field. This is consciousness. And whether it's the human mind or a scalar energy instrument, it has to be governed accordingly.
Yeah. And so the technology that you use for what we essentially, discovered to be is quantum medicine,
Yes.
how does that, like, what is the way in which you help people and deliver healing essentially?
Okay, so these instruments are so strong that working through the quantum field, and again, I can deliver a signal through a photograph, just as I could deliver a signal through a cell phone. So when I work with a person's photograph, I can actually balance their brain waves or balance their seven chakras. Now, how do I do that? A quantum field is a scalar energy force field. And we have those 7 chakras, which are 7 quantum fields. They spin. So a scalar energy instrument can access those 7 quantum fields, those 7 chakras, through a person's photograph. So that's one of the abilities that I experience with the scalar energy instrument. Many people say that after I work with them, they have a sense of tranquility, or they're much calmer, or they're less prone to gossip, or to be angry. So in some measure, a scalar energy instrument has sent quantum healing consciousness to the human mind. And I mean that quite frankly. So all of my work is non-physical. It's energy, light. And this light has an impression upon our brainwaves and upon our 7 chakras, to the point that some people say that they're happier while they're on our sessions. The key is this energy benefits people and animals. So pets included. So if you put all of that together, it's energy, what we call action at a distance, scalar energy. It does have a great import on one's thinking, on one's spiritual state of being. Most people say that after we work with them, they're happier, or they see some type of psychological shift. That's so important.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you a case. Obviously, you don't have to mention any names, but anyone that you can think of where they've had like an exponential shift in their life.
Yes, I've had some parents who've sent me their photographs of their school children. The kids are in school, and they said they're much more attentive in school, or they have a greater zest for their academics or for sports. So how do we do that? By reprogramming the brainwaves and the chakras. Others have said that they've been able to overcome alcohol or cigarettes, or they're less inclined to desire alcohol or cigarettes. Now, I am not a drug specialist. I don't claim to be. I'm a scalar energy specialist. But when I work with this quantum energy, this consciousness, it seems to correct phobias or bad habits. So in and of itself, this energy must be instructive. In and of itself, this energy, this divine energy, has a significant, once again, influence upon the mind and the chakras.
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Through my own personal experience, because you and I connected just over a month ago, and I have actually gone through your program so that I could essentially have the experience of what it's like to go through this scalar energy and know what it feels like for me. So yeah, you introduced me to this, about a month ago, and I have been through the 30-day program, and I can honestly say, coming outside of the other end, I wouldn't say they were like massive exponential shifts. I'm like, oh my God, this is the thing. But it is an overall sense of well-being and happiness, and even just sort of, a subtle sense of like underlying well-being moving forward. I definitely feel like there has been a shift that has happened for me, which I'm really, really grateful to experience. And knowing that you offer this quantum medicine to people that can, support their life from, we're in two different countries, we're on the other side of the globe to each other, and that we have access to this. Like, is this the new way of healing and medicine and ultimately well-being?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. That's very prudent of you. Yes. For the sake of the audience, I live in North America. I live in the state of Florida in the United States, and you're in Australia. Well, distance does not matter with consciousness. You simply provided your photograph, and this energy overcomes time and space. Frequently, I work with people in India, in Africa, in Europe. Again, all by way of a photograph of a person, or, Jen, I can offer people a group collage. People can send me a family photograph or a photograph, say, of a high school or a football, a rugby team, and we can treat. I've treated sports teams before by way of a collage. Now, this brings to mind, well, what's the extent? Well, for instance, in my laboratory today, I had photographs of 500,000 people.
Wow.
I treated 500,000 people. Why? Because I received photographs from around the world. Many of those are organizations. Some of those are non-government organizations, NGOs. Today, I treated 500,000 people in my laboratory.
That's incredible numbers. Tell us about some of the results that you had over in India. We discussed this when we first caught up, and this absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jen. I'm all about proof, so I'm going to hold up a photograph. This is a HIV/AIDS clinic in Delhi, India. It's a group. It's called Om Prakash. They're out of Delhi, India. The gentleman in the center, his name is Sehil. He's the founder of Om Prakash. Now, this gentleman at one time was HIV positive. Back in 2017, he provided me his photograph. By the way, I've never been to India. And after working with this gentleman in the orange-colored shirt, after working with him with Scalar Energy through his photograph, he reports that he has no longer any viral load for HIV. And now we're going on 5 years, and he's never had a viral load since the Scalar Energy sessions. His health has improved. He does not have any symptoms of HIV viral disease. And again, I'm going on record, he no longer has any detectable viral load. Well, since then, as the founder of this group, Om Prakash, he has provided me photographs of 5,000 people at the clinic. I have treated 5,000 people at Om Prakash, an HIV clinic in Delhi, India. And everybody reports that they feel better. Everybody, across the board. Young and old, male, female, it doesn't matter what walk of life. Everybody is telling me that they feel better.
I love it. It's just incredible, isn't it? Like when I heard those numbers from you initially, like it just blows my mind. And I know that there'll be someone out there thinking, like, just from a skeptic mind, that this can't be real because it's not tangible. Because it's not, like, how is that even possible? It's a whole bunch of woo-woo. Yeah. What do you say to the people that, is it just a lack of education or understanding? What is it?
There's a lack of understanding, but it's not their fault. This is a new science. What I've invented, what I have discovered is new and groundbreaking. Now, if 150 years ago, somebody could say, well, you could have a conversation 3,000 kilometers away using this device, a cell phone, you would say, no, you can't hold that to your ear and hear somebody in the cell phone. Technology is incredible. What I've discovered that this technology, Scalar Energy Technology, is going to grab the world. It will be embraced eventually. I go on record and I will say without equivocation, everybody that I've worked with at this clinic in Om Prakash, nobody has a viral load anymore. Nobody. Now, I'm trying to get the word out, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak to your audience. It's new, it's different, it's groundbreaking, but this is not the last time the world will hear about this.
Absolutely. When someone has a healing, is it called a healing? Is it called a treatment? What are we calling it?
I call it a treatment, and it is. I'm treating somebody's photograph, right? And then if people claim that they're healed, then it's their decision. Why? Because I cannot prove this at a distance. People prove to me that they feel better. I never observe people. 99% of the people that I work with, that I treat, I never meet. So I have to rely upon the testimony of people. And that's the key. And that's what I want the audience to understand. These are not my testimonies. This is not my feedback. The testimony, the feedback from people around the world is incredible. It's stellar. It's convincing. So there's no point that I'm trying to influence the narrative here. I'm not.
And once you've had a treatment done, Tom, is it something that lasts, or is it something that you've got to continually have ongoing? So say, for example, these HIV patients, are they done with it now, or is it something that needs an ongoing treatment?
This is my experience after working with this energy and being able to eradicate, destroy viruses for 10, 12 years. Unless you're reinfected, you don't have anything to worry about. This session, the treatment seeks out any photograph bears a mark, a signature of a virus, including the HIV virus. And any photograph can be influenced through the quantum realm, and we can disassemble any type of signal, any type of intelligence for the HIV virus. So to answer your question, after I've worked with people, there is no viral load. There never has been. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't become reinfected, but I'll let your audience come to the conclusion. After a scalar energy session, there's no viral load.
What about cancer patients?
No, I hope God will give me the wisdom for cancer. My specialty, I can identify and eradicate, remove pathogens, germs, but no, I have no success with cancer yet.
Okay. What's the difference then? If we're talking from an energetic perspective, what is the difference? Because the scalar energy obviously can transmute matter. How can it not transmute cancer cells?
It should be. And let me explain how I do this. If I'm going to hold up a photograph of the herpes virus, I actually place photographs of viruses or pathogens inside the instrument. It's a gigantic drop-down well next to a person's photograph. So the information from herpes enters into my quantum field. So I can do that by way of photographs, seeking out the herpes virus and eradicating the herpes virus. It's all instructions, photographic instructions. I have not been able to develop a technique for cancer because you can't per se photograph cancer. So there has to be a new technique. There has to be another technique for cancer. Do I think scalar energy will prove to be the key? Yes, I do. But I don't have that wisdom yet.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yes, it is coming.
Beautiful. Just like when, we had the old Nokia flip phones and we thought they were the bee's knees. And now we have iPhones. So it takes time for the technology to catch up.
Yes, it does. Very good.
Yeah. Can you explain how scalar energy is not bound by time or distance?
Thank you. If you look at electricity, it's some type of a force field, and people say it's a movement of electrons, or perhaps it's the alternating current of electrons. Now, keep in mind, scalar energy is non-physical. So there's no physical movement. You're not relying upon physical matter. What are you relying upon? Consciousness. Is consciousness everywhere? Yes. So when you tap into consciousness, it's different than tapping into electrons. Electrons is an impediment. Consciousness, there's no impediment. So a scalar energy force field is unlimited by time or space because you're tapping into the infinite universe. And I want the audience to realize the scalar energy force field is everywhere. It really is the omnipresence of God. And when you tap into consciousness or the omnipresence of God, it's unlimited. Meaning what? With one scalar energy instrument, I could work with anybody, anywhere in the world, or I could even access the stars through my instrument. So my instrument works as a universal satellite. Why? Because scalar energy is a universal consciousness. So a scalar energy instrument is a universal consciousness satellite.
So it's fascinating. Ultimately, like if we are consciousness, if everything exists within our consciousness, are we also an instrument ourselves for scalar energy?
Yes, and thank you. That's very astute. The mind and the heart are scalar energy vessels. And I've always said this, God has given everybody in the incredible gift of scalar energy. The human mind and the human heart are governed by scalar energy. And to further that point, why do we think? How do we think? Why do we feel? How do we feel? That's intelligence. Those are instructions. So every human thought is a scalar wave. Every human emotion is a scalar wave. Now, we begin to see how consciousness, our mind, and our emotions are now governed by scalar energy. So everybody is filled with scalar energy. We just don't understand that we've always been masters of this energy.
Yeah, it's just not knowing how to access it. Where do you think, Tom, humanity has got it wrong or gone backwards or downhill? Like, is it the rise of technology? Is it the rise of pharmaceuticals? Is it the rise of like the stress that we have in our lives and the disposable mentality of the lifetime that we exist in? Where are you at with that?
I'm going to quote Nikola Tesla. Tesla said, when mankind embraces non-physical phenomenon, mankind will make greater progress in a decade than they have in centuries. Now, what does that mean? The non-physical scalar energy consciousness dictates the physical universe. So if you want to drive a car, you get behind the steering wheel. That's consciousness. That's scalar energy. If you don't want to command your car, you get behind the car and you push the bumper. So what do I advocate? Scalar energy puts you in the driver's seat of nature. Now, this is a technological vantage point. If we realize that instructions, consciousness, which is non-physical, this is the term Tesla used, non-physical, is the animating force of the universe, then the other technology is important. But doesn't it make sense to go to the cause, go to the instructions, and then understand therefrom where we can have advantageous effects, the results? So as a scientist, I always look at the cause. The cause supersedes and is much more important than the effect, cause and effect. What have we missed in today's world of technocracy? We've missed the non-physical. We've missed the consciousness.
When did that start to shift? I mean, if Tesla knew this, I feel like we're going backwards.
We are.
Yeah, and like the rise of AI. Let's talk about AI. Let's go there. What is your viewpoint on the rise of AI?
At the end of the day, is it good or bad? Is it good or evil? Does it help or does it hurt? Now, artificial intelligence, well, my cell phone is filled with AI, and that helps me. Now, if like anything, like any tool, if it's misused, AI, artificial intelligence, can harm. So we're going to have to put boundaries on this because our supercomputers can do incredible feats. And if they're going to be governed by artificial intelligence, you better have a moral compass and you better know what you're doing. Let's face it. The atomic bomb was developed and people had the know-how, to create a bomb. Was that the smartest thing to do? In my estimation, no. So just because you can create an atomic bomb doesn't mean you should make an atomic bomb. And likewise with AI, you have to govern this. Yes, our supercomputers can do incredible things, but those supercomputers, you have to adjudicate moral boundaries with those. So
100%.
Yeah, with AI, it's a double-edged sword. It obviously is incredible vantage point for us, but it could be used for our undoing.
Do you see AI becoming sentient?
It depends on how you term that, but I know a lot of people, the drive is to connect us people to the internet or to connect people to machines or to computers. I'm not in favor of that. To me, that's slavery. We lose our freedom.
Yeah.
I like my cell phone, but I don't sleep with it and it doesn't govern me. Okay. I like the fact that I can put my cell phone down and turn it off. I don't want AI or any computer hooking up to me or in any way capturing my thoughts or controlling my emotions and thoughts. So that's where we need these moral guidelines. And AI could get out of hand. It is getting out of hand.
Yeah. Who writes the guidelines?
Nobody. That's if you look at right now where the field of AI is, let's just look at the algorithms that you see on social media or on the internet. Well, somebody in the back room is deciding what is being said and what will be promulgated. And if somebody doesn't care for your stance, your educational viewpoint, your religious viewpoint, your political viewpoint, then the algorithms are against you. Well, all of these things involve judgment. We have to adjudicate what is right and what is wrong. This is going to be very difficult moving forward. AI or any type of artificial intelligence. What do we want? What benefits us? What do we not want? What do we want to abstain from? And what is going to harm us?
Yeah, it's such an interesting conversation. And even when we break it down to what is right and what is wrong when it comes to this, to me, right and wrong is a subjective perspective anyway, an individual subjective perspective, because your version of something that is right might be very different to my version of something that's right.
Right. Exactly. Thank you. So, what are the guidelines? How are we going to guide ourselves? Remember when the computers first came out, there were very few guidelines. People could do anything they want. It was free range. Now guidelines have been instituted, et cetera, et cetera. Well, hopefully the AI will have that regulation too. We'll have that oversight. Or at least people should have that moral compass and provide those moral guidelines.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's very interesting times that we live in, because we've got this rise of technology and it's moving very fast. I didn't realize, I got onto ChatGPT probably about a month or so ago, and just started having a bit of a play with it, seeing, if it could write any articles around any, blogs I wanted to put together. And it was mind blowing what it could come up with. And I've seen a lot of, different videos on social media about people using ChatGPT and, these AI functions. And that happened very quickly. I didn't even know that was sort of coming about. And then it's just boom, everybody's all over it. And, in that way, when we saw, I don't know if you I didn't jump on the trend, and I was just I'm not getting onto it. But when everyone was doing the AI photos, the AI generated photos of themselves where they would look like, a cartoon version of Wonder Woman, essentially, taking away, I think, from real artists, and then now we've got ChatGPT writing articles and blogs and all sorts of things. Are we taking away from, creative, heart-centered copywriters that can write from the heart in alignment with, what it is that we're trying to convey, when the technology is only going to get better from this? What is your viewpoint on where will we end up if we're just scratching the surface with this and we're already here? Where can we go with this?
Exactly. So what do I think about automation? It's wonderful. It frees us. We're no longer slaves. I want a machine. I want a computer to be my slave, but I don't want the computer to run me or decide or dictate my reasoning or my actions. So I look at scalar energy the same way. What I can achieve, one operator, one scalar energy researcher, if I can work with 500,000 people a day, that's what I call automation. 500,000 people a day. So once we start incorporating, I'll speak for myself, scalar energy instruments around the world, it will make obsolete many times physical labor. It will make many technologies obsolete. It will change the world. Automation through scalar energy will change the world. I eventually envision free energy from scalar energy. So you won't need a power plant. You won't need an oil well. You won't need a coal pit. So this automation, it's going to be a major shift. And we will have to adapt to it. And the good news is we should not work 40, 45 hours a week anymore. With automation, mark my word, with automation, we should not have to work more than 15 hours a week or 10 hours a week. The machines will do the work. We don't need to do those tasks anymore. So we're getting there through robotics, through automation, but through AI. And as long as you govern it, it'll be paradise.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's really about the intention that you hold with it as well, because as you know, intention is everything.
Uh, yes,
Intention is at the base of everything.
yes. Thank you. Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
What I'm really feeling as well, Tom, is that with the rise of technology, with the rise of AI and machines and all of this, it's holding up a really big mirror for all of us to check in with ourselves and really just come back to ourselves and say, what is it that I truly value? For me personally, having, being surrounded, like I've got two massive monitors around me, I've got lights, I've got podcasting equipment, there's, always electricity going. And if I don't get outside, put my feet on the earth for a little while, I feel fried, I feel exhausted. And I'm like, just like begging for a walk in nature. And so, having all of these things and all these stimulants and all of these, devices in our world, to me personally, it's actually essentially forcing me back into nature. Like as you can see, if you're watching the video, like my room is surrounded with plants. I'm, the negative ions released from my salt lamp and, my plants and stuff is, I'm trying to help balance out the energy that's going on in here, by bringing nature in. And, for me, like the window that I look out over, like I've got a beautiful big tree in front of me and all I have to do is just cast my eyes up and I just see just greenery, which is absolutely stunning. And if it was a wall, I would probably go batshit crazy. But it's really giving me a permission slip to say, hang on, what is it that I value the most, and even though I've got the opportunity, for example, to use this chat GPT, say if it was to write a course or a program, I know that that's not from my heart. I know that that's not in alignment with my values of who I am as a coach and a therapist to bring forward this information. So it's allowing myself the time and the space to write essentially from my heart, write content and see clients and deliver them something that's personable from me as opposed to an artificial intelligence. And having to get really clear on, well, what kind of a world is it that I want to live in? Do I want to live in one that is, completely controlled by a cashless society, by robots at the supermarket instead of people? And what do I have access to now? I still have access to cash. I still have access to go through the checkout where there's someone working there and have a conversation with a person. I can still choose to interact with what I've got right in front of me now.
Bravo, bravo. And I don't want to take human interaction out of the equation. I would like to see mankind liberated, especially from menial tasks. But the next 10 to 20 years will be very, very incredible. It's going to be the hypershock that people have anticipated for quite some time. And it's only going to accelerate. And I agree with you. We should not have a cashless society. I want to have some control over my future. And if I feel like I want to go to a checkout stand and speak to a person, okay, that's my prerogative. Today I was in the grocery store, and it's really almost 50-50 now. 50% of the checkout is self-checkout, and 50% is through a checker. Well, I chose the hostess. I chose to go through the human engagement because I like to speak to people. And actually, it's much faster instead of me having to self-checkout. What is my point? It's here. 5 years ago, there was not self-checkout at the grocery store, at least not here in the United States. But now the trend is there. Where does this end? It does not end. But this is just the beginning. And how far this is going to go, and will eventually you just walk into a store, put everything in a shopping cart. That shopping cart is scanned. You take a credit card or a debit card, you swipe it, and then you're out the door. Is that possible? It's possible. We can actually scan all items simultaneously in a shopping cart, and you'd be out the door in 2 minutes flat. So
I have a feeling this was actually being trialed in Sydney here in Australia. I feel like I've read this.
Yeah, I've heard reports that this is, let's face it, if there's a satellite, a low Earth orbiting satellite, and that satellite can look at an entire city and pick out a dime on a sidewalk, and it can, okay, then the technology is there to identify. It's an identification, whether it's a dime sitting on the road or all the contents of the shopping cart. This time is coming. It's coming. It's right behind us. So, what's the point as a scalar energy researcher? I'm a Christian. I have guidelines. I have a moral compass when I'm working with these instruments. They're very powerful. How do I protect myself and others? I have a standard procedure, and I never deviate. And what has worked in the past, this is what I've instituted. What has worked and what I've shown to be safe and effective, that's what I do today. It's safe and effective, and everybody should do that. I don't care if you're a school teacher or a physician, or if you're cooking meals for people. It doesn't matter. So moral responsibility has to be a traveling partner with technology. Moral
100%.
responsibility and technology must go hand in hand. As I mentioned earlier, I alluded to the fact that our ability to create a nuclear bomb, an atomic bomb, there was no moral compass there. We should have never done that. Just because you can create a nuclear bomb doesn't mean you should create a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, absolutely. Are we going down the path of losing our humanness and our sovereignty?
We will if technology is run amok. Anything that we cannot control, anything that does not have these moral guidelines, anything could harm us, whether it's a government or AI.
Yeah.
Everything we do, when you get in a car and you drive down the road, you've got to be responsible. You have, not only for your welfare, but for the welfare of others. And I don't care if it's a car or AI, or if you have a supercomputer that is monitoring everybody's keystroke. There are supercomputers that do that. Well, that's artificial intelligence. And why is somebody monitoring my conversation on Facebook, or monitoring my keystrokes on a computer? Well, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting times, isn't it?
No.
What are some of the ways in which you connect with yourself, or connect back in with nature, or connect back in with your version of spirituality?
I always pray. Every day I pray. And actually, before I begin the Scalar Energy sessions, I pray. And I pray while I'm treating people. And that way, it's a good guide. It gives me that moral compass, and I ask God to heal. I'm not the healer. I ask God to heal. And to the point that I pray throughout my sessions. It might take me an hour to treat somebody. I'll pray throughout that hour, and I'll meditate, and I'll call upon God to perform the healing. So I think there is a real importance in calling upon God to participate in this healing. It's just not a technological process. It's spiritual with technology going hand in hand. I do that every day. And I would encourage people to pray and meditate every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm listening to it's an Audible where there's 10 books of Neville Goddard. And because I grew up with a Catholic background, and very much had an aversion to Catholicism, God, etc. Once I sort of reached my later teens, early 20s, and then found spirituality, and then, resonated with, the universe as opposed to God. And it's only been, in the last, probably 10 months or so that I've really done a lot of work around, my version of God and what that looks like. And the books that I'm listening to at the moment by Neville Goddard just sums it up so perfectly that, your version of God is consciousness. And, the things that the Bible teaches is it's kind of like a psychological thriller, essentially, where, the different elements of the Bible can speak into different parts of our consciousness. And it resonates with me so deeply. And so, when you speak about God, like your version of God, do you feel that God is external to yourself or within you? I'm really curious.
Right. God lives within all of us.
Yeah.
He's our creator, and he lives within us, provided we ask him to live with us. Some people call that the divine will, in which we're asking his divinity to come and live in us, to animate us. And I'm all for that, to be a part of that God's divine will. He wants to animate us. He wants to be our life force. He wants to live in us. And I would encourage people to call upon that.
Yeah, beautiful. For anyone that's listening that may have an aversion to God, religion, maybe not spirituality, but just like, oh, they've gone there kind of thing. Would you relate this scalar technology? Is it religious based? Like, obviously, if you're praying through it and you're calling upon God, is there a religious undertone to it that people might sort of have this, I guess, fear or feeling around?
Don't fear, but yes, I believe it's divine. Why do I say that? Scalar energy is everywhere. It's consciousness. Well, how can anything be everywhere, and how can anything be all-knowing? It would have to be God, the supreme being. So when I say I work with scalar energy, again, this is not magnetism. We're not working with magnets. We're working with the intelligence, the logos of the universe. And that calls to mind that the creator must govern this infinite capacity, this infinite dimension. Scalar energy is everywhere. Only God can be everywhere. Only the creator could be everywhere and at any time. So there really is no distinction between science and religion. It's all true. And science might be one way of looking at it through empirical knowledge and empirical testing. And then religion, spirituality through faith or through theory or through mysticism might be another way of considering the truth. But it's all true. And if it's true, then you embrace it. The truth you embrace.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely been such a part of my journey as well. And I would much rather dance in the esoteric space. If something's not real, to me, that's the most realistic it can be, because science can only take us so far, and science can only give us what we've essentially got. Other than quantum science, Newtonian science can only give us what is physically in front of us, but we know that we are so much more than this physical existence. And maybe that is the work for some people, to just let their minds go there, to be like, hang on a second, what is my version of consciousness? If this pen that exists in front of me has a consciousness, essentially everything is sentient in some way, shape, or form. But if 90% of it is just energy and only 10% is the physical, what are all the components of that? And this is the stuff that I love. Like, that's the space that I play in.
When you hold your pen up, you're right. A pen has an intelligence. There is scalar energy that gives structure, geometry to the molecules, and that holds together all atomic and molecular form. So that's where we're going with this non-physical reality, consciousness, scalar energy. Some people call it Om or the breath of the Holy Spirit. This is the animating force of everything. I'm going to repeat that. Scalar energy, Om, consciousness, dictates the universe. It controls the universe. It's the breath of the Holy Spirit. So when you consider that, again, you're in the driver's seat. This is the cause of nature. So going back to that statement of Tesla, when we first realized that non-physical energy is so important, then we will make great advances. We'll make great scientific advances. Why? The cause is non-physical. The effect is the physical universe.
Yeah. With this instrument that you have developed, then, are you playing God?
In some respects, yes. Yes, because I can control, for instance, I can easily control viruses or bacteria. I can easily eliminate, destroy, call it what you will, disassemble a virus or bacteria. So does this give me godlike capability? Yes. A scalar energy instrument allows me to control consciousness. It allows me to have mastery over microbes, germs. That's in many ways angelic-like behavior or godlike control. Do I say that I have that type of ability with a scalar energy instrument? Yes, I do.
Viruses, germs, and bacteria, are they sentient?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And so in the process of using scalar energy, are you destroying them?
Yes.
Or are you moving them into a different version? Are you converting them?
I'm converting, let's call it a transmutation, because
Transmutation, yes.
I take a bacterium and I reduce it into proteins and amino acids. By the way, you never annihilate matter. You realize that, your audience realize. You cannot destroy matter. You can change it, you can transmute it, you can rearrange it, but you cannot annihilate matter. I don't annihilate a bacterium. I transmute it, I disassemble it, I break it down into proteins.
All the matter that exists in our universe, multiverse, is that all the matter that has ever existed and will ever exist?
That's a very good question. Well, I don't know, and I would be dubious, because if the universe is constantly it's being created continuously. So we have an ongoing creation. If we have an ongoing creation, there cannot be a fixed limit to it. So I believe the universe is constantly expanding. It's an infinite universe, and it keeps expanding. So then you have to ask yourself, what's an infinite universe? Can you measure infinite matter? Can you measure infinite mass? So when we get into this realm of infinite, you can't measure or compare. How can you compare two infinites? You can't. So suffice to say, if the universe is the scalar energy universe, and it is, and it's infinite, then how could we say there's 1x for mass, and eventually it will be 2x for mass? You can't do that with an infinite consideration. It's beyond human reasoning.
Yeah, my Virgo mind loves to try and reason with things.
Well, good for you. If you understand my point, if our universe is an infinite universe, and you arbitrarily call that 1x, and the universe is constantly being created, and then next month it's 2x. Well, if 1x is infinity, what's 2x? You can't multiply infinity. You can't divide it. You can't multiply it. So if we have an infinite universe today, and the universe continues to create itself, then will we have a 2x and a 3x universe? That's hard to say. It's beyond human reasoning. When you have an infinite value or an infinite consideration, it's beyond human reasoning. You cannot say this is the basic unit. By the way, that's one of the reasons why you can never measure scalar energy. People say, Tom, you can measure a kilometer or a mile, yes. And you can measure a gallon or a liter, yes. People say, can you measure scalar energy? I said, no, it's infinite. How can you measure it? So if you can't measure something, you can't compare two quantities or two volumes. You can't.
Yeah. I was watching this thing. I think it was on TikTok recently. I love TikTok. There's so many good things that pop up in my algorithm, in my feed. I'm like, this is mind blowing. And it was along the concept of, are we living in essentially like a virtual reality? Are we living in a simulation? And one of the points that they made that blew my mind was, is the speed of light the rate in which our computer or consciousness can just keep up with the programming, essentially. Yeah. And so, perhaps the understanding of the infinite that keeps expanding into the infinity, if that's a word, is that just our level of comprehension that's expanding?
Yes, exactly. So we are limited. See, that's another good reason why science, God bless scientists and God bless the scientific inquiry, but it's limited. It's limited by human reasoning. Human reasoning is limited. There are so many things that are outside of our understanding presently. So we cannot, if we can't understand something, that doesn't negate that it's real or that it's there. We just don't understand it. So once we have that understanding, and some people do, then they realize it's an infinite universe with infinite possibilities. The big trap, the big drawback is if you can't understand something, it doesn't exist, or you discount it. No, don't do that. That's foolish. You might not understand it. Your human reasoning or your human experience, no hard feelings, but your human experience does not allow you to understand something. But that doesn't mean it's not real.
Do you think it's just we don't have access to it in our human brains to comprehend it? Like the amount of, gray matter that we have in our brains, there's probably more in there. Like once we access more of those pieces, we could start comprehending from a different perspective then.
Yes, I agree with you. And it appears that you have the gift of abstraction. I believe I have the gift of abstraction. I mean, just because you can't see it or touch it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It does exist. So you have that understanding of the esoteric universe. I have that understanding. There is a non-physical essence. There is a non-physical universe that's the animating force. I believe that. And I see that you believe that, to some extent of how we would define our terms. And that's a gift. And I never lose sight of the fact that when I speak to some people, that they get scalar energy, they realize it's the intelligence of the universe. And others just say, well, it's never been proven. You're right. And I don't know who can improve an infinite intelligence.
Yeah. And it's like, why would you want to, if you truly can comprehend this infinite intelligence, yes, why would you want to prove it? Because you truly believe that it exists anyway.
Exactly. The term consciousness has been used for centuries. Has anybody ever photographed consciousness? No. Has anybody ever touched it or put it in a jug? No. But we believe this is abstract, this non-physical consciousness, the intelligence of the universe exists. And we just have to say to ourselves, well, we have to accept it. Nobody can prove or disprove consciousness. I've never met anybody. You could show examples of it, but can you measure it? No.
Has religion ever dictated a scale in which you can take your belief to, and you've chosen to go beyond that?
No. I believe in the 10 Commandments. I'm a Christian, and I will not go out of those boundaries. And I won't mention it publicly. There's some things I could do with the scalar energy instrument. I would never touch it. I would never do so.
What about human evolution?
Human evolution, as far as each generation learning and becoming better, that's one of my goals with the scalar energy instrument, to teach people and to stop making the same mistakes, having a better prospect, the next generation having a better prospect. So in that sense, I believe that, yes, each passing generation, if we properly use these gifts, we will be for the better. And that's the key. I don't want mankind to fight. I envision that scalar energy will be a unifying force. Scalar energy should unify mankind.
Yeah, I love it. The work that you do is absolutely incredible. And I could literally talk to you for days about these things. Tom, I've got one final question for you before we wrap up. And to you, what is the meaning of life?
God, being in God's presence. If God gives us life, then we are supposed to share in that life with him. So what is the meaning of life? To be embodied with God, to be hand in hand. If God is the cause, the creator, I want to be part of his creation.
Yeah, beautiful. Is that enlightenment to you?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
You've heard know thyself or realize your stature, realize where you stand in life. Well, God's the creator, and he created me in his image. I want to make this very clear. I'm a Christian. God created us in his image. Isn't that a high compliment he's giving to us? So why don't we live up to his creation? Very important. We're created in God's image. Imagine what that means. He's entrusting to us so much. We're created in his image. He's bequeathed to us. He's given to us. We inherit his image. That says a lot.
Yeah, I love it. Tom, thank you so much for joining me today and for the incredible work that you do. And, no doubt we're going to see the rise of scalar energy and this technology around the world. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on the show sharing all of this magic.
Thank you for the conversation.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlightened podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is Enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.